Yeah, but so here's what happened at the beginning. They just sent me the script, as I remember, and I read it. Was he offering it to me as I read the script?
When The Fly hit theaters in 1986, audiences were not prepared for what they saw. This wasn't just a monster movie, it was a grotesque, heartbreaking tale of obsession, science gone wrong, and the horrors of transformation. But behind the iconic film lies a web of secrets, scandals, and bizarre facts that even die-hard fans have never heard. From near-disastrous casting choices to toxic romances and deleted scenes that would make your skin crawl, The Fly is as haunted behind the scenes as it is on screen. What really went on during the making of this horror classic? Stay with us as we find out. Before The Fly became a cinematic spectacle, David Cronenberg was haunted by an unsettling idea: the fear of transformation. Unlike many horror directors who relied on cheap scares, Cronenberg wanted to explore the intimate horror of a human body betraying itself. The spark came from a combination of Kafka's unsettling tales and a fascination with grotesque biology. Cronenberg reportedly devoured articles about scientific accidents and genetic mutations, fixating on the idea of a man slowly merging with an insect. He imagined not just the physical horror, but the psychological torment. How a brilliant scientist could watch his own humanity dissolve. This obsession drove him to reject typical horror tropes, opting instead for body horror that was shocking, visceral, and disturbingly realistic. He wanted audiences to feel disgusted and empathetic simultaneously, a balancing act that few filmmakers dared attempt. The result? A film that terrified viewers on a level far beyond simple jump scares. The unsettling question remained: how far would Cronenberg push reality to manifest this nightmare? Jeff Goldblum didn't just act in The Fly, he became the embodiment of horror. His performance demanded more than emotional intensity. It required enduring hours of painstaking prosthetics, makeup, and physical contortions that would test any actor's limits. Each day, Goldblum would spend up to 6 hours in the makeup chair, enduring layers of latex, glue, and prosthetics that molded him into Seth Brundle's terrifying evolution. The transformation wasn't just cosmetic. Goldblum had to contort his body, simulate twitching muscles, and mimic the grotesque movements of a human-insect hybrid. Cronenberg pushed him to extremes, insisting on authenticity, even if it meant visible discomfort and exhaustion. Goldblum later admitted that he often left the set physically drained and mentally unsettled, haunted by the character he had to become. Yet, this grueling process paid off spectacularly. The audience could feel Brundle's horrifying metamorphosis with every twitch, scream, and agonizing movement. The line between actor and creature blurred, raising the chilling question: how much of Seth Brundle remained human by the end of filming? The makeup in The Fly was more than a visual trick. It was a masterclass in terror, and the nightmare began long before filming. Chris Wallace, the genius behind the effects, crafted prosthetics so realistic that cast and crew often recoiled in disgust. Each stage of Seth Brundle's transformation required painstaking detail: bulging veins, twitching muscles, and a horrifying blend of human and insect features. But the real horror wasn't just the design, it was the process. Actors had to endure hours of daily application, often leaving their skin raw and tender, while Wallace tweaked every flap of latex to maximize grotesque realism. The stench of adhesives, fake blood, and sweat-filled latex added an almost unbearable sensory layer. Crew members reportedly needed breaks just to cope with the intensity of watching the transformations take shape. This wasn't a Hollywood gloss-over, it was a dive into visceral, tangible terror. And the result? Audiences could feel Brundle's mutation, not just see it, making every twitch, spasm, and grotesque detail unforgettable. In a move that sent shivers through the set, Cronenberg insisted on using real insects in several scenes of The Fly. While CGI was not an option in 1986, many productions would have opted for fake bugs. But Cronenberg wanted authenticity, even if it terrified the cast. Live flies, beetles, and other creepy crawlies crawled across Brundle's body, the lab set, and even in close-ups, creating an unnerving realism that made audiences squirm. Jeff Goldblum and Geena Davis were reportedly petrified. Davis admitted she had a phobia of bugs. And every scene required a mental battle just to perform. Crew members had to carefully manage the swarm, ensuring the insects moved as needed while preventing chaos. The decision added unpredictable tension, as insects did what they wanted, not always what the script required. Yet, this risk paid off. On film, the tiny creatures elevated the horror, making Brundle's transformation feel disturbingly alive. The sight of real insects crawling across human skin blurred the line between fiction and reality, leaving viewers unsettled long after the credits rolled. Geena Davis brought intelligence and emotional depth to The Fly. But behind her composed performance lurked a very real terror. She had an intense phobia of insects, a fact few knew before filming. During the scenes where live bugs crawled around the set, or worse, on Jeff Goldblum, Davis often froze, her fear threatening to derail the shot entirely. Cronenberg, notorious for pushing actors to their limits, refused to compromise the scene's authenticity. To get through it, Davis had to summon immense courage, sometimes performing while trembling, all while delivering lines with convincing emotion. The crew devised tricks to minimize her direct contact with insects. But the horror was psychological as much as physical. Davis later admitted that certain takes left her in tears, struggling to separate the terrifying fiction from her real fear. Yet, her performance became one of the film's emotional anchors, grounding the grotesque transformation of Brundle with genuine human vulnerability. It raises the chilling question: how much did real terror enhance or haunt the performances we see on screen? Sound in The Fly wasn't just background, it was a weapon, carefully crafted to make audiences recoil. The grotesque squelches, bone-cracking snaps, and wet, organic noises of Brundle's transformation were created by a team of sound designers who went to extreme lengths for realism. Some sounds came from manipulated recordings of real flesh, insects, and even animal parts, pushing boundaries that many found disturbing. Audiences reported gagging or covering their ears during test screenings, proving just how viscerally the effects hit. Cronenberg believed the auditory horror was as crucial as the visual, insisting that every grotesque detail have a sonic counterpart. The result was a symphony of disgust, immersing viewers in Brundle's agonizing mutation. Some theaters even posted warnings, highlighting the intense soundscape as a trigger. The effects blurred reality, making the transformation feel almost tangible. Every squish and crack forced audiences to confront the horror of a body betraying itself. It begs the question, would The Fly have been as unforgettable without the horrifying, meticulously designed soundtrack that assaulted both eyes and ears? While The Fly, 1986, is celebrated for its groundbreaking body horror, few realize it's also a careful homage to the 1958 original. Cronenberg admired the earlier film, but wanted to push beyond its limits, blending psychological terror with visceral transformation. Hidden throughout the set are subtle nods, lab equipment echoing the original design, newspaper clippings referencing prior events, and even visual motifs reminiscent of the first film's style. Fans who spot these details uncover a layered dialogue between the two versions, a quiet reverence beneath the blood, slime, and horror. Cronenberg's choice to respect the original while expanding its scope speaks to his obsession with storytelling and cinematic continuity. Yet, he never made these tributes overt. They exist for the attentive viewer, a secret thread connecting decades of horror cinema. This careful balancing act ensured the remake was both terrifyingly modern and respectfully nostalgic. The lingering question remains: how many viewers sensed these hidden homages, and how much did they enrich the terrifying journey of Seth Brundle's horrifying metamorphosis? The set of The Fly wasn't just a backdrop. It was a fully realized, horrifying laboratory that breathed life into the film's terror. Every corridor, machine, and glowing console was meticulously designed to feel both scientifically plausible and unnervingly alien. Cronenberg demanded authenticity. Wires tangled realistically, chemical props were eerily convincing, and every gadget seemed capable of a catastrophic malfunction. The lab became a pressure cooker of anxiety, not just for Brundle, but for the actors and crew navigating its claustrophobic confines. Real insects scuttled across surfaces, and mechanical props often behaved unpredictably, keeping everyone on edge. The attention to detail extended to lighting, shadows, and even the scent of the space, slightly metallic, tinged with chemicals, to enhance the immersive terror. This wasn't Hollywood gloss. It was a hands-on, multi-sensory environment designed to make the horror feel immediate and unavoidable. Watching Brundle's transformation unfold within this space, audiences felt trapped alongside him, as if they too were participants in a scientific experiment gone horrifyingly wrong. David Cronenberg didn't just direct The Fly, he lived it. His fascination with body horror was legendary, and the film became a canvas for his darkest obsessions. Unlike typical horror directors who relied on jump scares or gore for shock value, Cronenberg focused on the intimate terror of the human body betraying itself. Every twitch, spasm, and grotesque mutation was carefully designed to provoke visceral disgust while exploring psychological depth. He spent countless hours discussing anatomy, prosthetics, and even the physics of mutation with his team, obsessing over details most filmmakers would ignore. This obsession extended to the actors. Cronenberg pushed Jeff Goldblum to inhabit Brundle's physical deterioration fully, blending performance with prosthetic realism. For him, horror wasn't just visual, it was philosophical, forcing audiences to confront the fragility of flesh and identity. His fixation paid off, creating a film that horrified and fascinated in equal measure. The question lingers: when watching Brundle's metamorphosis, are we witnessing a character's nightmare? Or Cronenberg's own dark vision of the human body gone terrifyingly wrong? One scene in The Fly became so notorious that it nearly faced censorship in repeat airings. The infamous Brundle-Fly mating sequence, graphic, disturbing, and utterly grotesque, pushed boundaries that few audiences had seen before. Cronenberg's unflinching vision demanded realism. The grotesque fusion of human and insect was portrayed with painstaking detail, combining prosthetics, sound design, and visual effects to evoke both horror and fascination. Test audiences reacted with a mix of shock and revulsion. Some fainted, while others applauded the film's daring artistry. The controversy escalated when networks considered editing or cutting the sequence for reruns, fearing public backlash. Cronenberg and the producers argued fiercely, insisting the scene was essential for understanding Brundle's tragic evolution. Their defense highlighted the psychological weight, not just the shock value, of the moment. Today, the scene is hailed as a landmark of horror filmmaking, blending disgust, empathy, and terror. But the lingering question remains: would The Fly have had the same cultural impact if this shocking, controversial scene had been toned down or lost entirely? Cronenberg didn't invent the terror of The Fly. He mined it from real scientific anxieties. The idea of a human merging with an insect was grotesque, yes, but it also echoed genuine fears about genetic experiments and technological overreach. During pre-production, Cronenberg reportedly devoured case studies and articles about lab accidents, mutations, and failed experiments, fascinated by the thin line between genius and catastrophe. He imagined Seth Brundle not as a villain, but as a brilliant mind undone by his own curiosity. A cautionary tale of science gone horrifyingly wrong. The designs, prosthetics, and transformation sequences were grounded in pseudo-scientific plausibility, enhancing the unsettling realism. For the audience, the horror wasn't just in the visual grotesqueness, it was in recognizing that, in another world, Brundle's fate might be possible. Cronenberg's careful blending of imagination and scientific dread created a visceral, psychological impact, making viewers question the ethics and dangers of unchecked experimentation. The chilling question remains: how much of Brundle's nightmare was pure fiction, and how much was a mirror of real scientific hubris? To portray Brundle's horrifying metamorphosis convincingly, Jeff Goldblum took his preparation to unsettling extremes. He practiced contorting his body, simulating twitching limbs, and mimicking unnatural movements, sometimes for hours in front of mirrors. Cronenberg encouraged him to explore every nuance of a body unhinged by mutation, even consulting with biomechanical experts to refine gestures. The process wasn't just physical, it was psychological, pushing Goldblum into uncomfortable alien states. His dedication transformed him from actor to embodiment of Brundle's tragedy, making every spasm, lurch, and grotesque motion unnervingly authentic. This extreme rehearsal blurred the line between performance and living nightmare. The prosthetic makeup for The Fly was legendary and grueling. Chris Wallace's team spent hours each day layering latex, glue, and intricate details to transform Jeff Goldblum into Brundle Fly. Every wrinkle, vein, and grotesque mutation had to be perfect, but the process tested patience. Goldblum endured long, uncomfortable sessions, and the crew often became frustrated managing the delicate, time-consuming effects. Mistakes meant starting over, sometimes hours wasted. Yet, this obsessive attention to detail paid off. The result was a horrifyingly realistic transformation that terrified audiences, making Brundle's metamorphosis not just seen, but painfully felt on screen. Geena Davis wasn't just acting, she was improvising, and some of her spontaneous choices became iconic. During intense scenes with Goldblum's Brundle Fly, she added subtle reactions, a flinch here, a gasp there, moments of genuine horror that weren't scripted. Cronenberg noticed these small, instinctive gestures, and kept them in the final cut, enhancing the authenticity of the fear and tension. Her improvisation made the scenes feel raw and unpredictable, elevating the horror beyond prosthetics and special effects. In those fleeting, unscripted moments, audiences weren't watching actors. They were witnessing true terror and emotional vulnerability. Amid the chaos of Brundle's transformation, the Fly hides a tiny, almost imperceptible cameo that few viewers noticed. A lab technician briefly appears in the background, portrayed by a longtime Cronenberg collaborator, as a subtle nod to the director's previous work. The moment lasts mere seconds, but it adds a layer of intrigue for eagle-eyed fans. Cronenberg loved these hidden touches, weaving connections between films and rewarding attentive viewers. It's a reminder that even in a story consumed by body horror and grotesque visuals, there were layers of storytelling and homage that most audiences might never catch. One scene from The Fly was cut from the final release, but it still haunts fans. In this sequence, Brundle's mutation reaches an even more grotesque stage, showing details that were deemed too extreme for audiences. Footage survives only in production archives and special features, fueling fan fascination and speculation. Cronenberg reluctantly removed it to maintain pacing and rating, but its absence left a lingering sense of what could have been even more horrifying. The scene's reputation has grown over the years, becoming a dark legend that adds an extra layer of terror to the film's already nightmarish narrative. While The Fly is firmly rooted in 80s body horror, its influence rippled far beyond its era, leaving an unexpected mark on modern science fiction. Cronenberg's exploration of human experimentation, mutation, and the ethical dilemmas of unchecked science echoes in films, television, and even video games decades later. Movies like Splice and series such as Black Mirror borrow the same psychological tension: the fear of losing humanity to technology or biology gone awry. Cronenberg's insistence on blending visceral horror with scientific plausibility inspired filmmakers to treat body transformation as both terrifying and intellectually compelling. The Fly's meticulous depiction of mutation, its physical grotesqueness paired with emotional tragedy, set a standard for realistic, science-based horror that remains influential today. It's more than a cult classic. It's a blueprint. The eerie question lingers: how much of today's sci-fi owes its sense of dread and ethical tension to a man and a fly in 1986? The music in The Fly was as carefully crafted as its visuals, yet it sparked controversy for its unconventional approach. Composer Howard Shore created a score that intertwined haunting melodies with industrial, almost mechanical sounds, reflecting Brundle's grotesque transformation and the lab's sterile, scientific environment. Some critics initially found the music jarring, claiming it amplified the horror to uncomfortable extremes, while others hailed it as genius, perfectly mirroring the film's emotional and physical decay. The soundscape didn't merely accompany the story, it acted as a psychological amplifier, making audiences feel Brundle's agony and the creeping terror of mutation. Shore's layered compositions blurred the line between score and sound effect, heightening tension and disgust. Today, the music is recognized as integral to the film's legacy, but at the time, it challenged conventional expectations. The question remains, could a traditional horror score have made The Fly nearly as viscerally unforgettable? In The Fly, one prop achieved near-mythical status for its unsettling realism: the telepod. On screen, it appears as a scientific marvel capable of transporting matter, and its construction was no less meticulous behind the scenes. The team crafted it with gleaming metal, glass panels, and intricate mechanical details, creating a device that looked plausible enough to fool anyone into believing it could actually work. But the real horror came from its imperfections. Flickering lights, subtle steam, and small mechanical hums added a sense of life, making it feel dangerously real. During filming, actors treated the telepod as a genuine instrument of science, enhancing their performances with authentic fear and awe. Audiences responded instinctively, sensing the prop's believability even subconsciously. This meticulous attention to tangible detail amplified the terror of Brundle's transformation. The chilling question remains: did the telepod itself become a silent character, embodying the dangers of ambition and scientific hubris? The ending that shocked even Cronenberg. Even David Cronenberg, the mastermind behind The Fly, admits that the ending of the film shocked him during filming. The final moments, Brundle's full transformation into the grotesque Brundlefly, and the devastating conclusion of his romance with Geena Davis's character, pushed the boundaries of horror and tragedy. Prosthetics, makeup, and practical effects combined to create a horrifyingly lifelike creature, eliciting reactions of disgust, awe, and sorrow from cast and crew alike. Cronenberg deliberately refused to soften the ending, believing that the full emotional and physical horror was essential to the story. This choice paid off, leaving audiences haunted long after the credits rolled, grappling with the consequences of ambition, love, and human fragility. The film's conclusion became a benchmark for horror finales, balancing grotesque spectacle with emotional depth. The lingering question remains: how much of the shock comes from what we see, and how much from what we feel inside? From cursed casting to grotesque prosthetics and a haunting legacy, The Fly, 1986, remains a scandalous and unforgettable cinematic achievement. Its shocking behind-the-scenes stories elevate the film from horror classic to legend, ensuring that its legacy, like Brundle himself, will never be forgotten. Don't forget to comment your favorite shocking fact and subscribe for more.